Hey guys, so this was a video I wasn't expecting to make, at least not so soon, because I was actually gonna go pick up Tucker on Monday, but I ended up getting him a few days early, so it's pretty late right now. I had to run some errands earlier, and then I took a shower, and now it's like 9:30 at night. But I'm going to try and quickly explain the whole situation with this hamster because I want to talk about this as soon as possible because I wanted to go over like the first 24 hours and what they've been like. And also give you guys an idea of what like having a hamster is like in case you're thinking of getting one. So I did get him from the PetSmart, but he came from the shelter. So essentially, it was almost 2 weeks ago at this point. It was last Monday. Me and my new support worker had just visited the SPCA to like pet cats and stuff, and we did get a chance to pet some cats. But we actually ended up looking around, seeing what other animals they had, and it turned out they had this tiny little hamster in a cage, and I was like, immediately fell in love with him and immediately felt compelled to take him, and not just in a way where like I see a cat and I want to take it home. It was different than that. It was like a pull or something. It was like I don't really know how to describe it. It was like a pull towards an animal in a way that I'm supposed to be the one to take him, and like I'm supposed to adopt him, like we were meant to be together. It's very hard to explain if you've never like felt that way about an animal before, but obviously this wasn't something I did on a whim. I was getting ready for him. I wasn't even expecting to have him until I moved back into my apartment because I was sure my mom was gonna say no to me bringing another animal into her house. I mean, I already have the tarantulas and the snails and my snake and stuff like that. So just bringing another animal home or thinking about the fact that she wouldn't allow. Actually, maybe it's the fact that I already have all these animals that made her say yes. Maybe if I didn't have a pet, she wouldn't allow me to just get another pet. I don't know. I I did not even question why she said yes. I don't. She said as long as she didn't have to do anything for him. So, yeah. I mean, I would never expect her to do anything for him. The whole reason she was like washing, like cleaning the rat cage and stuff is because my arm wasn't fully recovered and was still hurting a lot. So, I was having a lot of trouble with that. But I wasn't going to expect her to do anything. Maybe it's the fact that I asked her to help me set up the stuff for my snake, like the light and stuff. Or not the light, the heat. I don't know. Anyway, so essentially I fell in love with the hamster, and I was gonna spend a few weeks getting ready for him and take him when I was back in my place. Quick side note, I did get an update on that, and apparently the landlord has been sick for the past couple weeks and hasn't got any work done on the house because of it. I don't think that's actually what's happening. I think more than likely what he's doing is not working on the house purposely and then like going through my file and finding a reason to kick me out. Or just waiting and finding other excuses until I either find another place to live or until he has no choice left and has to keep doing what he's doing. But I'm still not paying rent until because I'm not living there right now. And he made an excuse that he was upset because he was losing money on the house. I know for a second that's not true. He doesn't give a shit that he's losing money on the apartment. He doesn't want me to live there. He would be much happier if I didn't live there anymore. I know for fact that that is the case. And he wasn't none too thrilled about the tarantulas, so I'm sure he's not going to be too happy that I now have a hamster, but I don't really give a fuck at this point. Probably what's going to happen is I am going to figure out the subsidized housing, or I am going to find another place to live or something, or he's just gonna find a reason to kick me out, and I'm just going to have to live here until subsidized housing or whatever. I don't know. I'm not concerning myself about it right now, but more than likely I will not be able to record once my mom gets back from her trip because she's going to be around the house all the time and I am not going to have any time to be able to record. Also, there are a few things that I want to do with my mom that we're supposed to do together, like the 2 10-hour days and some other stuff. Anyways, just wanted to make a quick side note of that. But back to the hamster. So I fell totally in love with him, and I have been getting everything ready for him over the past, well, week and a half. So I got him yesterday. Essentially, we were at the movies yesterday, me and my support worker. We went to the movies, and we were at the movies, and then she had to take the car back, so I just decided, okay, you can take the car back, and I'm gonna go ahead and just take an Uber straight from the movies so I can go see my hamster, and then I'm gonna go home. And they did take him off the website. They did say they took him off the website, but they couldn't just hold him for me, so I was annoyed by that, but I thought there was barely a chance that anyone else was gonna take him, and if someone did take him, it just wasn't meant to be. So anyway, but I did buy so much stuff that he needs. I did manage to get the bin cage. The top just isn't meshed yet. Right now I'm leaving it off or I'm putting it on as an angle, so at an angle so there's like space for him to breathe and he can't get out or at least he has not escaped yet. Like, yeah, he hasn't got out yet. So we're all good with that. So that's fine so far. But anyway, the hamster um, and the cage that he's in at the shelter wasn't very good either. I'm just gonna put some pictures up of what the cage at the shelter looked like because it was pretty bad, the situation that he was in. Like, they had a decent sized wheel, but other than that, I mean, he wasn't in a Tiny Tails or anything, so I guess that's something. But he has a much bigger cage with me than he had at the shelter. He has a bin cage now, and he has about 840 square inches of floor space. So, yeah. So I just want to put that out there. I'm working on a solution to mesh the top right now, and until then, he's been just fine in the bin cage. But when I do go to bed, I put him in the bathroom overnight and close the door so that at least if he does escape the enclosure, he's running around in the bathroom and not around in the entire house. Because if he runs around the house, there is little chance that I am going to see him again. So anyway, in the meantime, I have him in just in the bin. And so essentially what happened was when I went to go see Tucker yesterday after the movie, it was still pretty early. We went to the 12:15 showing, so it was still early. So I was probably there around 2:30, 3 o'clock. So I was there to see Tucker and I noticed they did not have the hamster cage there anymore. There was a rat cage, and my first thought was someone adopted him. But actually, that wasn't what happened. What happened was that PetSmart, I asked someone about him, and the lady who was there didn't know anything, but she went and got someone else who did know something, and they essentially told me that he had been moved to the PetSmart because they were having an adoption event. And and basically what they were doing, they moved Tucker there, and so I was like, okay, tell me what PetSmart he's at because I'm gonna go like make sure he's okay and stuff. Uh, and first thing I noticed when I walked in is that there was like a big bulletin board with a list of pets' names that had been adopted, and his name was thankfully not on the list. His name wasn't originally Tucker, by the way. I changed it because I didn't like his original name, but the hamster doesn't really care what their name is, so, it doesn't really matter if I change it or not. But essentially, there was the bulletin board with all of the adoptable animals' names on it, and his name was not on the board, but he was like right there in front. The cage was there. I recognized his cage immediately, and I went to go check on him, and he wasn't in the cage. He was like, I mean, he was in the cage, I assume. He was either in one of the hides or like hiding underneath the bedding or something. I wasn't really sure, but he was definitely in there, and I remembered his cage from the shelter, but I immediately could see that he hadn't been adopted yet. But also, it was very clear that he was right out in the open, so that people would see him when he walked in, and that he would probably be adopted, which I didn't want to happen, especially because he's at the PetSmart. And if he gets adopted at the PetSmart, then the person who takes him is going to be like, oh, I want a hamster, but I don't have a hamster cage. Oh, wait, they have hamster cages on the shelves. I'm just going to get the Tiny Tails Castle or whatever, and then stick him in a garbage cage for his entire life. Like, the Tiny Tails, I think, are worse than the cage he was in at the shelter. They're smaller, they're more cramped, and they're more problematic. But I wasn't gonna let that happen because I've done so much work for him, and I wasn't about to let someone just take him and then pick out one of the shit cages that they had at the PetSmart and not know what the fuck they're doing. So I made a decision right then and there that I was gonna take him. And so I was talking to the lady who was at the cash, and she said to come back in about an hour. So I went over to the Michaels, which the PetSmart and the Michaels, like the PetSmart is right here, and then the Michaels was right there. So it was like I just walked. It was like maybe 10 feet to the Michaels. So uh, I walked down to the Michaels, and then I went in there and I tried to quickly find a solution to mesh the top of the cage. And then I bought some stuff at the Michaels, and then I like went back, and while I was waiting around for the adoption, I ended up playing with the kittens because they had some volunteers there and they let the people like play with the kittens. So I was back there like petting cats basically and just playing with the cats and kissing them on their soft furry heads because I decided while I had a hamster it wasn't a good idea for me to foster cats, especially because if I go back to my place that I was before, it's such a small space, and having a hamster and cats in there just seems like a recipe for disaster. I might change my mind depending on where I move to as far as subsidized housing goes, but I think what's going to be best for me is just to wait for this hamster to pass and then foster cats like later, like down the line. Because the hamster is like a year and 7 months old. That's what they said to me. And hamsters live to like a year and a half to 2 years. So I don't know. He might live longer. Some people have their hamsters live to like 3, 4 years or sometimes more. Although when it gets to that point, people will just say my hamster lived this long and you can't exactly, get gauge whether or not they're telling the truth. Not that I'm saying anyone is lying, you just can't really tell when it's just out there on the internet. So anyway, he's in the enclosure now, but I couldn't mesh the lid with the stuff I bought at Michael's, unfortunately. The main problem was the cutting tool, but I just I made do. I figured it out. And then in the meantime, I just have the lid on at an angle and I don't know, he hasn't escaped yet. I think he's just too small to be able to climb on stuff. But yeah, he is very cute and he's in there. And I can't like show him on camera. I'll show you guys the pictures though at the end, like the pictures that I took of him and the one very short video I made of him. And in the video, he was trying to run. I actually posted the video because I was trying to figure out if there was something wrong with the wheel because I got him a 10-inch wheel and he was running on the wheel, but it looked like he couldn't move it. He just made a noise. Anyway, he looked like he couldn't move the wheel, so I posted it onto Facebook on one of my hamster groups just to ask if everything was okay and what I should do to fix it. And they said get him a smaller wheel. And some people also said there was a knob on the back, and if you turn it and loosen it, he could run on the wheel. So I tried that first, and that did not work. So that was actually what I was doing today. I bought him like uh another wheel, which this one he can actually spin on, like run on. So I did not buy him any exercise balls. Please don't buy your hamsters exercise balls. They're very unsafe for the hamster. So like I was looking all around at the pet store and eventually I just asked someone and they actually showed me that the wheels were on the very top shelf where I couldn't even reach, so that explains as to why I could not find the wheels because they're up so high you have to actually look up high to see them, which I don't really do that often, so you know. But yesterday I did run back out to the hardware store to try and find another tool, but the other tool didn't work either. So now I'm trying to figure it out. My mom gave me a number for one of her friends so that I can ask that friend if she knows anyone else from the church who can help, who has some tools, who might be able to help me mesh the top. I have the mesh, I have stuff to stick with. I just need a cutting tool to be able to cut out a proper place for the mesh to go. Like you're supposed to cut off the inside of the top of the lid and then like mesh it and attach the mesh with zip ties, which I just bought some sticky stuff from the hardware store. But I did try and find a solution for it. Um, and in the mean, and then I went back out today to buy the new wheel. I was also looking for special Reptisand for the sand bath. I couldn't find the particular sand that someone told me to get though, so I'm gonna be ordering that online. And someone told me to get a seed mix, but the seed mixes they have for hamsters are pathetic. And someone sent me like a tier list with the best hamster foods on it, and it was like excellent, good, average, and then bad hamster foods. And all all or at least most of the seed mixes that I found are fucking garbage for hamsters because small animals have maybe 20% of the pet store and dogs and cats have the rest of the pet store because dogs and cats have such a gigantic area of the pet store to themselves. And then small animals and reptiles get hardly anything. So you would have to go to like an actual reptile store. But it was too late to go to the reptile store. So I might just buy some Reptisand when I'm at the reptile store on Monday. That might be better. But I did order a seed mix. I have like a lab block for him, but someone said to get him a seed mix. But since I couldn't find a proper seed mix at the pet store, I had to order it and it's not going to get here till Monday because I had to order it on Amazon. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But I do have like a lab lot mix for him until then. So at least there's that. And he has been eating and drinking and doing like normal hamster stuff. And he's been running on his wheel now that he has one that actually works. It was a. I was going to replace the wheel, but it and I did replace the wheel, but it was a little like funny watching him try to run on the wheel, realize he's going nowhere, and then have a confused look on his face for a couple of seconds, and then he would try running on it again, and it was just adorable. I don't know, he's just adorable. I love him. And yeah, so I made a split second decision that I was just gonna take him, and the paperwork that I had to fill out, I just put like my information and the date and stuff, and that was it. Like they didn't ask me any questions or like give me any. It was basically just here, fill out your information, and then you can take this hamster home. It wasn't like an adoption. Like, will you be a good home for this animal? I don't know. Like, they might do it differently than the shelter. They probably do, but you know what? I don't really care. But I already fell so in love with him at the shelter, and they said they took him off the website for me, but you know, obviously they can't put animals on hold, so that was a little disappointing. And when I went, and so a couple of days before I got Tucker, I did ask my mom if I did ask my mom for the update on the apartment first, and then when I realized there wasn't really any update and it wasn't really going anywhere because things weren't exactly moving forward, my thought was, okay, I'm gonna ask her once if I can bring this hamster home, and then when I go to the shelter again, either I'm gonna be saying and then I'm gonna go to the shelter sometime next week because either I'm bringing this hamster home or I'm just gonna have to tell him that they can adopt him out because it's not really fair for me to have him waiting around and have them waiting around the my apartment is going nowhere and it's not fair to the hamster either because I do love him but I also at the same time recognize that it's important for him to get a loving home to go to. So yeah, so that was my plan. And to everyone's surprise, she said yes. I don't know why she said yes. I obviously didn't question it because why would I? But yeah, she said fucking yes. I didn't I made it very clear. I was like, I'm not trying to pressure you, but I'm just gonna ask you once because I feel like I I just felt like I needed to, you know? Like you need to ask and it can't hurt to ask. Like what's the worst that's gonna happen? They say no. But I did ask, and she did say yes, and I don't know why. I will never understand it. Maybe I'll ask her when she gets back from her trip because I'm actually really curious as to why she said yes. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't thinking at the time, but you know what? doesn't matter. It's too late. I have the hamster now, and I'm not giving him away or anything. Like, I got him from the shelter, and he's living with me for his entire life. The other thing is, I might be a little allergic to him because I was kind of allergic to my rats. So, after a couple of days, I might find that I'm like allergic to him because I was allergic to my rats. So, I might just be allergic to all small rodents, in which case, if I do, find out that I'm allergic to Tucker, I might just not get any more small rodents after this because of my allergies. Because having my sign, because I already have sinus problems that are not going to go away, basically. So having allergies on top of that is just annoying. Dying, but unless I'm like dying or like super sick in bed all the time, I'm not like gonna give him away. I was only kind of allergic to my rats. So I might just be allergic to all small rodents. That might just be a thing. But I played with the cats and then I filled out the forms to take him home. Then I took him home. Then I set up the enclosure. Then I put him in the enclosure. Then I tried to go back to the hardware store to find a solution to mesh the cage. Then it didn't work. Then I changed in my pajamas and went to bed. I didn't even have time to take a shower because it was like 10:30 by the time I could take a shower, but I went ahead and took my pills at around 9 because I needed to, and I recognized that I wasn't going to be able to take a shower, but I did just take a shower like right now. I did take a shower. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and attach all the pictures and like everything that I have of Taco so far. It's not much, but right now I'm trying not to bother him because I'm just gonna I'm just gonna give him a couple weeks to settle in, and he is like a very nervous and skittish little guy right now. Like, he hasn't bitten me, and he did also eat a yogurt drop out of my hand before when he was at the shelter. So he's he's very sweet. He's just like nervous, and obviously being in a new environment with new things and new routines, new smells, new sounds, new everything. It's like it's not going to be a good time for him for a while. So people are telling me to give him a couple weeks to settle in. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make sure he's fed and watered. But other than that, I'm just gonna kind of leave him alone and let him do his own thing. And then, just try and slowly integrate himself try and integrate like us together and hope to build some trust over time. And hopefully he will come to learn that I'm safe and he can trust me because he's a very sweet little guy and I love him and like I feel like I did the right thing even though I spent all this time and all this money on him. I feel like I did the right thing to take him. So I'm going to go back to the shelter probably Monday. Like I'm going to run errands with my support worker and then I'm probably just going to go to the shelter and like tell them I got him and he's with me. He's home because I'm sure they're all wondering how this story ends. Uh, Unless, of course, the pet store called the shelter to let them know that someone took Tucker, which I don't think happened. I don't know. I don't really know, but I was at the PetSmart today. That was one of the places I was looking for hamster food, but the uh the hamster food there is pretty bad. But I did see the guy who helped me adopt the hamster yesterday, so that was pretty cool. And I was like, okay, bye. But anyway, also his name isn't on the board yet because the guy said he just forgot. Because I looked at the board because I was really excited to see his name there, and then the guy just said, and then I was like, oh, why isn't his name on the board yet? And the guy was like, oh, I just got really busy, which definitely I can see happening, especially from working in a pet store when you're really busy with all the animals because I'm already busy and I only got like a couple of animals. Well, the snake and the hamster are really much higher maintenance than my tarantulas. So, I mean, I have the tarantulas, but they don't require hardly anything. But the snake and the hamster are the ones that require work. Anyway, but I've been running errands all day yesterday, and then I had to run a couple errands today and search for more hamster stuff, and I still didn't find everything I needed because just the small animal and reptile area in pet stores is so sparse. Like, they don't get enough attention in pet stores. It's very upsetting, but anyway, I'm gonna go, and me and Tucker wish you a good night. And I'm gonna put all the pictures at the end of the video and the little video of him running on his wheel. Okay, bye.